Hey everyone, Mike here. What we're going to do today is I'm going to do the carving part of Balsa minnows. It's a super lightweight 1.5, right around 1.5 grams. It's 1 inch long, and I've made a few of these and took them out and did a little fishing with them. And there they are right there. This is what they call like a tube fly, because what happens is you run your leader down through the front of the lure, the fly, and the leader comes out this end. You tie on your hook, and in this case I'm using a Gamakatsu glow bug hook, and when you put it on, when you pull the leader through, that'll pull the hook right up into place. And since this is counterweighted with a keel weight down here in the belly of the minnow, that'll help that minnow ride straight up, and it will allow your hook as well to ride point up. And you should get more, not necessarily more hookups, but you'll get better hookups, especially with smallmouth bass, because you'll get into the more bony part of the mouth of the bass. So I guess you need to make sure you set the hook really well with these. But anyway, what we're going to do is just the carving part today. And what I use is this balsa wood, and you can pick it up at you can pick it up at Hobby Lobby or Michael's or wherever you want. I'll have some links in the description on all of the things I use, except for a couple of things I'm going to show you here in a minute that I made with a new 3D printer I just picked up not too long ago. But anyway, the balsa wood is 1/8 inch thick by 3 by 36. Now you can get whatever width that you want, but 1/8 inch thick is the key here to make sure that these flies turn out to look like this right here, and you'll keep it in that 1.5 gram range. So what we're going to do with this plywood here, or balsa wood here, is I bought a strip of angle from Lowe's, and it is 1/2 by 3/4 by 1/16 inch thick. It's just 1/16, if I could say that, 1/16 of an inch thick, 3/4 of an inch on this leg, and 1/2 inch on this leg, and that gives you perfect strips of 1/8 inch balsa. And you just simply lay that angle on the balsa like so, and you take your knife. I have the knife sticking out a long way because I want that knife to follow right along, just like so. And you kind of hold your finger here. You got to make sure you put a lot of pressure down on this. Probably wouldn't hurt is to laminate a piece of thin, like a emery cloth, sandpaper, to the bottom of this, so that when you put it on, it won't slide around. You won't have to really push down with a lot of weight to keep this angle from sliding. Anyway, when you place the blade up against this leg here, the 3/4 inch leg, you can keep it perfectly lined up to where it's making a straight cut straight down, just like that. And then that way, these things are cut square on the ends, and that's pretty important. And then what you'll do is you'll cut them down. I use a small hobby saw, and I got the thinnest kerf blade that I could possibly get. And then I took the blade and put it in my vise, and then squared it up with a machinist square to make sure that I'd get a straight cut in here. And then I made, because it comes with the center cut, a 45 here and a 45 here, I put this one on for this thin cut blade, so that when I go to cut the pieces like this, and this is a positive stop with another piece of that 3/4 1/2 inch by 1/16 inch angle. It goes in there, and then I set that piece 1 inch back from where the cut is. That would be this area right in here is 1 inch, just a little over 1 inch, because we're going to be sanding these down, and the final product you want it to be right around that 1 inch mark. So anyway, what we're going to do, I've already done that. You don't really need to see how to do that. Probably didn't really need to see how I cut with the angle as well, but it's very important to, you know, emphasize that this piece of angle here really facilitates the cutting and keeping this piece square. Can you do it any other way by just laying a regular rule down? Yeah, but what can happen is the blade can tilt one way or the other. This right here will keep the blade straight. Okay, so there's that, and then we end up with a couple of blanks right here. All right, and what we're going to do with these blanks is there's a tool that I made, and it is 3D printed, and it's got a lot of detail in it, and there's a spiral blade that is buried below this surface right here, halfway. And what that'll end up doing is giving us a groove, a perfect groove on the balsa wood. Let me demonstrate that real quick, and you'll see what I'm talking about. You just take the piece of balsa and stick it on there, and you run it back and forth. You probably can't see the blade, but you run it back and forth on that blade, and when it stops with the resistance of the cut, what you're going to end up with is this perfect little groove inside the balsa that is a perfect matchup for the tubing that I use, and this tubing comes from bunch of balloons. It's just literally a bunch of balloons on the end of a nozzle piece that goes on your hose, and it's got all these balloons sticking out of it, and it blows all the balloons up at the same time, and they just pop off, and then you've got all these strands left over. They're probably about 5 inches long, maybe. But anyway, I'll go ahead and do the second one, and you'll see what I'm talking about on lining this stuff up. So I'm just going to do the other side now. Okay, so if you look at this, when I lay this down on here, and this will be the piece that I'll use to when I glue it all together, this green piece of tubing, and then if you look at it, it's that blade that I have is just slightly undersized to the tubing, but when you put a little bit of pressure to it, it actually perfectly, look at that. I mean, that is dead center on that. When it's glued up, it'll be dead center on the glue up. And here's one that's already done right here. All right, this one's already done, and it just it's ready for carving and sanding. So now all I need to do is I need to take these here pieces together, and then there's another tool that I made that is this right here. It's a small parts clamp so that you can carve easily and not have any mishaps on cutting yourself or cutting too deep into your piece of balsa wood. So there's two distances here. You got this part here and this part here. This is going to be the top part of the minnow, and this will be where the belly is, and that gives me that little this is a finished one here. That'll give me that little hump right there where the bird shot, I use a number 4 bird shot, and I'll show you how to do that, where the bird shot helps keel the bait so that it rides nice and straight in the water. anyway, what we're going to do is put this thing, let's go to this end here, put this thing in here. I actually have some other ideas for this tool. These are just prototypes. And then what I can do, this has got heavy springs inside, and it clamps up just about like your fly tying vise. When you have the control in the back and the clamping on the front. So what I want to do is I want to carve the belly part first, and so I want to get this. This tubing just below the surface of where your blade will ride. You're not going to have it riding on the belly part, but I'll show you when we get to the top how that rides on there and gives you a perfect cut all the way across. But you just tighten this little knob up here. Check your straightness on the wood to the clamp, and then all you need to do, I'll tell you what, it's probably a good idea once you get those strips cut, is take this back down to where you've got a blade and maybe a half, and that's really all that you need. And then you just take the blade and just carve off the front side of this balsa, and you'll have control. You don't want to try and cut off your tubing there, but what the tubing is there for right now is to keep the pieces aligned through this process of the carving. Because if that tube wasn't in there, then this thing could be doing this right here the whole time that you're carving, and you don't want that. That piece of tube in there keeps that from slipping around. And then, so again, what we need to do is just carve down right like that. Get as close to there as you can. The rest of it can be done with some sanding sandpaper and some other little jigs that I made that you can make. I made mine from popsicle sticks. Then go ahead and start working this thing to where you want to get a shape. I mean, I'm not even drawing my shape or anything. I'm just doing it by eye, doing the first cut in the front like this, and then coming back and joining the hump in the front. So I start in the back and I just start carving like this. And each time I pull a little bit out, I go back a little bit further. And while I'm making these cuts like this, I will kind of tilt my blade to go down a little bit, and then when I'm bringing it back, I'll turn the blades flat up so that it doesn't take out too much of the wood. Okay. See there? Now we've got a nice little belly on this bad boy. Got a nice little belly right there. So now what I'm going to want to do is take this and flip it around. And again, what I'm going to want to do is line up this surface here just above the tubing. You want to go just above the tubing, maybe right around a 1/16 of an inch, no closer than a 32nd. You'll just, if you do this, you'll just have to make a few, maybe make mistakes, maybe you won't. I don't know. You might be better at this than me. But now all we need to do is kind of look down through there and make sure the distance here is the same as the distance there, and it's not. So I'm going to give it a little push. Oh, that's too much of a push. I got to loosen this up a little bit. Okay, we'll loosen it up. Don't tighten it all the way so you can move this. All right, so we moved it. So we got the same distance here as we do back there. Now we can go ahead and crank it down. So now Now what we want to do is just start shaving off all of this wood down to the clamp, this little clamp that I made. And yeah, these clamps will be on my eBay store when I finally get it set up and I get the prototypes completely designed to where I'm comfortable sending these things out. But you can see that once you get to flush, when the knife is flush, probably need just a little bit more. It might not hurt to have two blades out. When the knife is flush to that to the carving clamp, it just won't go down any further, but it also will not cut into your plastic. Okay, so now we've got a perfect piece there, and we're ready to take that out and set it aside. And what we have is this nice little piece here. Okay, so now what we want to do is take these two pieces apart, and it really needs to be done, all this needs to be done in the sequence here that I'm doing. There's a reason for all of it, because if you try to get ahead of yourself on this, then things are not going to line up properly, and if you don't have them line up properly, then, I mean, you'll probably have a bait that'll still work, but you won't have one looking as pretty as it could be if you just follow all the steps that I have here. Alright, so what I'm using now is I got another piece of that 16th inch stainless steel welding rod. I believe it's 16th inch. I'll let you know for sure later, but I think 16th inch, I know I think it's .06, and I can't remember if it's millimeters or if it's in inches, but anyway, I put a piece of white shrink tubing over top of it, and then shrink it down, and then cut it off even on both sides in case I end up having to use this side over here. This is the one I've got for now. And I put two little dots so that it's going to be, when I put this down and I've got it even with the front of the Minnow here, now I can just go on and hit it with a marker just below this on both sides. Alright, so what that does is it will align the bird shot that we're going to put in there. Alright, so to do that, the bird shot, I simply have a Dremel tool ball burr, and it's a 1/8 inch burr. And then I bought these tool holders, so you can use. I have a Dremel, but I actually think with Balsa, and the only thing that we're doing here with it is just carving out a little half rounds on each side, so that the bird shot fits inside the half rounds, and it keeps, again, that's another part that just keeps everything from sliding around. You can use the Dremel tools, but I really suggest getting a tool holder and this Dremel bit here. So let's go ahead and carve these out. So the only thing I need to do is get that on just above that mark that I made, and then just simply kind of push down lightly and spin that. So now I've got a half round there over top of that. Got a half round there. And a half round there. Now what we're going to do is take our tweezers, and we're going to take the bird shot, stick it in that little hole that we made, that little half round. Take the back side of your tweezers and Let's see if I can get this lined up here. There we go. Take the back side of your tweezers and you just push down. Not super hard, just hard enough to get it to kind of lock in place. Now, before you put the tubing on, what we're going to want to do is take a little bit of super glue and just dot this thing around. All right, dot the groove and the top and the groove on the other side, just like that. And we're going to stick the tubing in there. Just the back side you want out further, the front side you only want it sticking out a little over 1/16 of an inch maybe. And then you put this down on there. And you squeeze it together, and then we're going to take some clamps and just put these clamps on there so that we make sure that that super glue sets up real good. And that's part of roughing in your balsa wood to get the bird shot in and the tubing so that it let's move that. I mean, this is, to me anyway, I think that's pretty sweet that this process that I've come up with, you can put that small piece of tubing right there, dead center, right down the middle of this side and this side, put together, and then with the 1/8 burr tool, you can put your bird shot in, and you end up with a really nice looking profile that's getting started there. Alright, we're just getting started. We're almost finished, so it doesn't really take that long when I say we're just getting started, but we're not going to do the painting today. Today is just the carving and sanding and putting the hardware in your Minnow. So now what we're going to do is I'm not using the clamp. I am thinking about, I got two ends on this clamp. Alright, so this end here I want to stay just the way it is, flat, so that I can do all the work on this side. But then I'm thinking about maybe extending this end out just a little bit so that I can put the bait in and be able to carve on this side where this is only maybe 1/4 of an inch or whatever, to allow me to carve around this to round it off. I don't know if it's really necessary or not, but I will probably experiment with. That's why I'm saying all this stuff is just a prototype now. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and carve this thing down. So we're going to do it with this. The reason why I have this wire in now is because it allows this balsa wood to not get any kind of bending and pulling stress on this glue up. So with this piece of wire in there, it stays pretty steady, and it also allows for some aggressive sanding, as you're going to see here in just a few minutes. So right now we're going to do the back end here, and we're just going to carve around. You can see these shavings are very, very thin. I'm pulling this thing out. When I'm pulling out wood, it's very, very thin. I mean, 64 inches smaller thin. And the only thing I'm doing is rounding off the sharp corners of this Minnow. Once we get the sharp corners taken down, then we will go ahead and sand this little bad boy right into shape. You're really better off taking small shavings, because you always take more off. It's just a little harder to put back on, which you're not really going to do. You can see these shavings are like real thin. I'm doing here. Okay, so there's that side, and then we're going to do the side here, the belly area. Don't worry if you get it off a little bit, because the way we want to sand it, it's going to really help out a lot to put shape in this thing we're looking for. We're going to just run carving away here. And now on this side here, what we're going to do is make sure that this comes down almost flush, but not quite. Front end. And I'll show you that when we get ready to paint. There's a few things we're going to do with this, a couple things we're going to do with this tubing that runs through here. Okay. I think we got all the edges there. Starting to take some pretty good shape there, wouldn't you say? I think so. Looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with these things. It's taken me months to get this all figured out. Playing around, carving, and not having the right tools to mess with, and you know, everything. But on my sanding stick, all it is a popsicle stick, and I've got a few different ones. I don't think I've got them up here. They're down in my shop, where I have a 100, probably like a 180 or something like that, a 220, maybe 320, all in separate sticks. But these things are so small that I don't think you really need to worry about it. I think that the 100 grit will do just fine. And so now we're going to just go ahead and start shaping this by sanding it down. You're going to hold it like I am here, and then just give real fast, short bursts of movement on that stick. This is your hand as much as just long and do things. At least I hold the tongue out and snap like that. Or something like that. I'm not showing my face like this thing. But anyway. On the back side here, it doesn't have to go all the way down like we did front, because this side's going to get the treatment in the back side here. Plus, the back side is going to have a piece of tubing that goes over top of this tubing that will have the fly dressing tied on in the end. Okay, so that's part of the that's probably going to be a third part of this thing. We're getting there. I mean, you can tell that this thing is already taken really good shape. And this sandpaper here, I'm going to show you how I made this. I actually took, let me go ahead and show you. I actually took this thing here and peeled off the sandpaper, which is actually a sanding cloth. I mean, it's very pliable, way more than any paper, even emery cloth paper. It's super thin, and it's got a nice grit on it, and it really isn't hard to get this off of here, and that'll be another video soon. But then all I do is, once I get that off, I'm able to clean off all the blue sponge, and then I clean it up with alcohol, the back side, and then I use contact cement over the whole thing, and then fold it up as best as I can square. And then I put a block of wood on each side of it, stick it in my vise, clamp it down, and let it set up completely. Of course, you let the contact cement that you put on the back side of this, you try and get it on as thin as possible, and you let it dry completely. You let it dry for at least somewhere between 5 and 10 minutes. Don't let it go more than 10. And then when you when you fold it over and you stick it together, once it's stuck together, you're done. So you want to be careful when doing that. So let's go ahead and finish up this this thing here, and you can see look at that. That is just a beautiful minnow that we're going to end up with after we get it to this point here. We got, like I said, we need to paint it, clear coat it, and then we'll put the dressing on. Well, actually, we'll put the tube on, then the dressing, and then it's ready to go fish. That thing is dynamite. Smallmouth kill these things. Anyway, that's it for this part. Part of the instruction. It's not hard to do, as you can see. It does help to have a few tools. I can show you how I did it before I got the 3D printer and was able to make up these clamps. I can show you how to make this thing here. The only problem is I've had my scroll saw for many years, and I had these old spiral blades, and it's a scroll saw blade, but it's twisted and it's got a perfect spiral in it. And when you put the wood on top of that and run it back and forth, being that the spiral bit is buried partly into this little jig, then that's what gives you that perfect slot in there. Anyway, that's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Be sure to give me some comments down there in the video. Tell me what you think about this and the process. If you got any ideas, I'm open to that, because like I said, this is in the the development stage. But I figured that it was good enough at this point to go ahead and share what it is that I'm doing. The next video will be on putting the paint, a sealer on it, and then paint it, airbrush it, and then put the textures on it by using some materials that I got at the hobby shop. But anyway, when we're done with this, you'll be able to expertly put these little minnows together and go out and kill the smallmouth. My bet is that the browns will go crazy over them. You put a little rainbow trout pattern on these things. For that matter, they don't have to have any special paint jobs with scales and all that kind of stuff. You could probably paint these things like solid red with a white belly and maybe put a little blue across the top or something. I don't think it takes a whole lot of special. In fact, I don't know, maybe the paint jobs that you use, one paint job will work good one day and another one won't. But anyway, gosh, I can go on and on and on. I love this stuff. This is Mike. Till the next video. If you liked it, please subscribe. That way you'll get all the updates on this and many other things that I've got in the works to put up on YouTube here in the next, well, hopefully for a long time, because I'm fully retired now. Thanks for watching. This is Mike. Peace out.